The Roman senator walked through his estate at dawn, inspecting damage from the previous night's storm. Broken roof tiles, flooded grain stores, servants huddled around small fires for warmth. Within the hour, he had quietly arranged for repairs to be made not only to his own property, but to every damaged home in the surrounding village. No announcements were made, no records were kept of who received help, no gratitude was expected or received. By evening, the work was complete, and the senator had returned to his study to read philosophy as if nothing had happened. This was Musonius Rufus practicing what he called invisible wealth, the discipline of giving without creating social debt. Modern generosity often operates as a form of investment. You give with the expectation of gratitude, recognition, or future advantage. The Stoics understood that this approach corrupts both giver and receiver, creating chains of obligation that bind everyone involved. True wealth, in the Stoic understanding, is the capacity to give freely without attachment to outcome, response, or acknowledgement. When you master invisible generosity, you develop something more valuable than money, the inner freedom to act according to virtue, regardless of external circumstance. The first principle of invisible wealth is that generosity practiced in secret builds character that cannot be taken away. When Musonius Rufus helped repair those homes, he was not performing charity. He was training himself in the discipline of virtue for its own sake. Every act of secret generosity strengthens what the Stoics called the ruling faculty, the part of you that chooses principles over impulses, character over convenience. Public generosity, no matter how well-intentioned, creates dependency on external validation. Secret generosity creates independence through repeated practice of virtue without reward. Think of it as building moral muscle through resistance training. When you help someone and resist the natural urge to tell others about it, you are strengthening the part of you that acts from principle rather than praise. Each time you choose anonymity over recognition, you become less dependent on the opinions of others and more committed to the character you are building within yourself. The second teaching reveals why giving without creating debt protects both parties from corruption. Traditional generosity often places the recipient in a position of social obligation. They become not just someone you helped, but someone who owes you gratitude that can be observed and judged by others. This transforms a simple act of assistance into a complex web of social debt that can poison relationships and create resentment over time. Invisible generosity eliminates this problem by removing the social dimension entirely. When you help anonymously, the person receives what they need without becoming obligated to perform gratitude for your benefit or the benefit of others watching. They can accept help as a simple fact rather than as the beginning of a relationship built on debt and obligation. More importantly, you free yourself from the expectation of recognition and the disappointment that comes when gratitude fails to meet your unstated expectations. Seneca practiced this principle through what he called quiet distribution. Rather than hosting elaborate public banquets to feed the poor, a common practice among wealthy Romans seeking political advantage, he would arrange for food to be delivered to families in need with no identification of the source. The recipients received nourishment without shame or obligation. Seneca developed his capacity for virtue without the corruption that comes from mixing generosity with reputation building. Both parties remained free because the transaction was clean of social debt. The third principle teaches that invisible wealth creates internal abundance regardless of external resources. Most people experience generosity as depletion. You have less money, less time, less energy after giving. But invisible generosity operates by different mathematics. When you give without attachment to recognition or outcome, You develop what Epictetus called the discipline of desire, the ability to find satisfaction in the act itself rather than in what the act produces. This creates a form of internal abundance that grows stronger with practice. Each act of anonymous service proves to yourself that you can choose virtue over self-interest, principle over comfort, character over convenience. This proof accumulates over time, building confidence in your capacity to act according to your highest nature regardless of circumstances. You become wealthy not through accumulation, but through the knowledge that you can give freely without diminishing yourself. Cato the Younger demonstrated this during the grain shortages in Rome. While other senators competed to fund the most spectacular public relief efforts, Cato quietly arranged for grain to be distributed to families in the poorest districts of the city. He did this work personally before dawn, without witnesses or record keeping. When investigators later tried to trace the source of this assistance, they found no evidence connecting it to Cato because he had never sought credit for the work. His wealth grew not through the gratitude of recipients or the admiration of peers, but through the accumulated strength that comes from repeated practice of virtue for its own sake. The fourth teaching addresses how to practice invisible generosity at any income level. Stoic wealth is not about the size of your resources, but about the freedom with which you use them. You can begin developing this discipline immediately through small acts that require no money but build the same moral muscle. Pay for the coffee of the person behind you without leaving your name. Leave useful items in public places where others will find them. Clear snow from your neighbor's walkway before they wake up. Pick up litter in spaces you visit without documenting the action. These small practices train the same capacity for anonymous virtue that Musonius Rufus exercised on a larger scale. The key is consistency and secrecy. Each hidden act of service strengthens your ability to find satisfaction in virtue itself rather than in the recognition virtue might bring. You are training yourself to be generous not because others will know about it, but because generosity aligns with your commitment to live according to your highest nature. The fifth and most practical principle is that invisible wealth must be practiced systematically to develop real strength. Musonius Rufus taught his students to establish what he called daily disciplines of hidden virtue. Each morning, commit to one act of service that will benefit someone else and tell no one about it. Not your spouse, not your closest friend, not your private journal. Let the act exist only in your memory and in the character it builds within you. Start small and stay consistent. Hold an elevator for someone without expecting thanks. Leave a generous tip when no one is watching. Help carry something heavy without waiting for acknowledgement. The size of the action matters less than the discipline of anonymity and the consistency of practice. Over time, these small acts build the internal strength that can handle larger opportunities for service without corruption by ego or expectation. The senator whose story opened this exploration continued his practice of invisible wealth for 40 years, through prosperity and setback, political success and exile. He never spoke of this work in his writings, never used it as an example in his teaching, never connected it to his public identity as a philosopher. The discipline existed purely as character training, and that purity is what gave it power. When you develop invisible wealth, you create something that cannot be taken away by market crashes, political changes, or personal losses. You build the capacity to give freely because giving freely aligns with who you have chosen to become. This is the transformation the Stoics offered, from generosity as performance to generosity as practice, from wealth as accumulation to wealth as the freedom to give without attachment. Like a spring that flows constantly without diminishing itself, your capacity for anonymous service becomes a source of strength that grows stronger with use. The senator eventually lost his estate to political enemies, but his practice of invisible wealth continued in exile through small acts of service that required no resources except the character he had spent decades developing. He had learned that true wealth is not what you possess, but what you can give freely, and that freedom is found not in accumulation, but in the discipline of virtue practiced for its own sake. If this moved you, comment "The Citadel" holds below. It is our sign that you carry the philosophy with you. Subscribe and I will see you in the next one.